This is Stephen Winzenburg, live from the Iowa State Fair. Mary Brubaker is co-hosting, and Mary, it's just such a treat to have you back every year. Thank you so much for doing this.
It's delightful to be here, and you have such interesting guests to talk with.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And the listeners, too, you said you've had good response from people who've heard you.
When I say I'm coming out to do the show with you, Steve, they say, oh, yeah, I heard you last week.
Great.
And all kinds of people, so
yeah,
we better watch our P's and Q's.
Bill Sherman from the Iowa State Education Association, they've put together a book called Iowa's Country Schools. He'll be having a book signing today at 2. It's just filled with so much information, the history of it. Bill Sherman, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And whether you call this a rural school or a country school or a township school, they're all kind of the same thing, aren't they, Bill? They're just one-room schoolhouses.
Yes, they were early schools that basically provided opportunities to thousands of children across the state that otherwise would not have been able to have an educational experience at all. But early on, the legislature said we should create a network of schools so that no one would have to walk more than 2 miles to get to a school and to have an education.
And this was the like the Little House on the Prairie type thing where there's one teacher.
Right.
That's my only image of it, right? It's
One
teacher teaching a variety of grade levels.
Right. Usually grades 1 through 8, sometimes with as few as 5 or 6 students, and sometimes upwards 25 to 30.
It peaked in 1901. There were 12,600 schools in the state of Iowa in 1901. 12,000.
Right.
Wow.
And at that time, we had almost, basically the same number of students going to school in Iowa that we have today, over 500,000 students. And at that time, we had about 2/3 of the students in Iowa were attending these one-room schools. So they had a dramatic impact on education and our whole state.
It may be why Iowa has always been considered, a quality education state, because there was that need and response to it. I wonder, do other states have one-room schoolhouses in that number?
Well, probably not in that number. Andrew Gulliford, who's written the book America's Country Schools, suggests that there may be fewer than 12,000 one-room schools left in the United States. And I believe, based on the research that we've done for this book, we have close to 3,000 schools in Iowa remaining. So I think
a fourth of them in the whole United States are here.
Yeah, if Gulliford is accurate, yes.
And there still are actual operation one-room schoolhouses, mostly with the Amish, right?
That's correct. We have about 34 one-room schools that are operated by various religious groups, and then we have 6 schools that are part of the public school system in Iowa, 3 in Wapsie Valley, 3 in Jessup that are operated for Amish children, but they're part of the public school system, and together those 40 schools enroll about 1,000 students. So we still do have actual operating one-room schools providing education, much like we did at the turn of the century.
Now, Mary Brubaker told me beforehand that her sister actually owns an old one-room schoolhouse.
We were going down a country road in Montgomery County one time, and we were visiting relatives in Villisca. We saw this off on a little hill, and we went up, and the weeds were so tall that we could hardly see the schoolhouse. And so when she bought it later, we called it Goat Hill because it needed a goat to mow the lawn. And it's been Goat Hill ever since, and that was back in 1965. And we've used it as a summer getaway place. Beautiful views. There's a pond nearby. It's just
How did she fix it up?
Getaway.
Did she?
She painted inside. There was an old piano in there, of course, and we just left it a one-room schoolhouse.
Oh, you did?
And there was no indoor plumbing. There was electricity. That's the only amenity we have. But the whole family has used it at various times, just as a wonderful, wonderful getaway. Record the birds, lie in the hammock and read, look for wildflowers, pick wild plums. It's fabulous. Now, it was set aside because the road had moved, so it was a little more isolated. But when we head down there to southwest Iowa, I see little schoolhouses on corners all over. In fact, there are 2 by Stanton. Bob Williams, who's a farmer down near Clarinda, has one on his property. So they were built well, weren't they, Bill? Because they have survived. Even if they're used to store hay in, they're still there.
Right. One of the older schools that I know of, Stone Academy, north of Solon, was actually operating as a one-room school in 1840 before Iowa became a state. That school is still preserved, and it's still used in the spring for classes where kids from public schools can visit that school and actually attend a one-room school session.
The book is filled with information. There was a law passed in 1955 to close these schools. They had to all be closed by 1966, except the religious schools. Those were allowed to go on. If you want to read the history, make sure to check out the book. One last question for you, Bill. What kind of impact did one-room schools have on today's educational process?
Well, I think they're continuing to have a tremendous impact. In fact, some people are suggesting that we need to incorporate some of the concepts that came out of the one-room school, multi-age grouping, the idea of cooperative learning, where we have older students working with younger students. Those are two of the concepts that are being used today, and of course many of the teachers teaching today started their education in one-room schools, and so that's influenced their teaching.
But one of the big strengths of a one-room schoolhouse was keeping common language, common customs, and we've lost some of that today. Yes, diversity is great,
right,
but sometimes you can almost go too far and you lose some of that centrality that you may need.
Yes, I think that's true, that as schools have grown in size, that we have gotten away of some of the centrality, but it's kind of interesting. We probably have more than 120 schools that are still used as township meeting centers across the state, kind of a social center, and used as a polling place where people vote.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. The book is filled with this information. It's called Iowa's Country Schools. Bill Sherman, thanks for being with us. This is Stephen Winzenburg.